The very thought that his ambition to become a Jew was no longer a dream, but a distinct possibility, excited Valentine to no end. He could think of nothing else. He lost interest in his studies at the Vilna seminary. He lost his appetite and spent many sleepless nights. The young count took no part in any of the distractions in which young men of his position spent their leisure. He was completely wrapped up in himself. The inevitable delay until his plan came to fruition made him impatient and frustrated. Valentine's parents did not fail to see the change in their son's mood. Anxiously, they questioned their beloved son what was wrong. Valentine told them that his studies at the seminary bored him. The seminary was too cloistered for him. He would like to travel for a while abroad, to see the world, and perhaps continue his studies in Rome or Paris. There was nothing Valentine's parents would not do for their one and only son, whom they loved very much, but they hesitated to let him go abroad alone. "Don't you think, Valentine, that you are somewhat young to travel abroad on your own? Perhaps I ought to come with you," his father suggested. This was the last thing Valentine wanted. "There is no need, dear father, to trouble you and take you away from your affairs for such a long time. I am sure I can persuade my good friend Zrodny to accompany me. The only thing is that his parents cannot afford the expenses. So if you would be willing to provide the money for him also, there would be no problem." The senior Potocki knew Zrodny as a serious and responsible young man who was devoted to Valentine. He was also older than Valentine, and he couldn't think of a better companion for him. And since money was no problem, he readily agreed. So far, everything worked out according to Valentine's plan. Zrodny's parents were delighted that their son should have such an opportunity to travel abroad, all expenses paid. Thus the two companions set out on their journey with their parents' blessing. The two young Polish noblemen first went to Rome. Armed with a letter of introduction from his father, the renowned Count Potocki, Valentine and his inseparable companion were welcomed in the highest spheres of the Vatican. All the doors were open to them. They were fascinated by the tremendous Vatican library, bursting with rare books, ancient manuscripts, and relics of bygone ages. They were allowed to see treasures rarely seen by others. They were particularly impressed by the wealth of Hebrew books and manuscripts, filled with the wisdom of Jewish sages who flourished in different parts of the world for countless centuries, long before the Vatican itself came into being. Though they spent long hours in the Vatican library, Valentine and Zrodny had an ample time to meet with and observe the cardinals and other churchmen. They became frequent visitors to the homes of these dignitaries, and were able to observe them also in unguarded moments. Some of them, they discovered, lived in two worlds, one public, the other private, and these two worlds were not made of the same cloth. Valentine and his friends took time out to visit the ruins of the ancient glory of Rome. They roamed through the Colosseum, where captive defenders of Jerusalem were made to fight hungry lions, to entertain the triumphant emperor of the Roman populace. They gazed upon the Arch of Titus, the memorial to the Roman emperor who destroyed Jerusalem and its holy shrine. It is still depicted quite clearly, the scene of chained Jewish heroes carrying the golden table, golden menorah, and other sacred vessels from the temple. How strange, Valentine remarked thoughtfully. Here Titus boasted that he had completely vanquished the tiny Jewish nation. It had taken the best Roman legions 3 years to overcome the heroic Jewish resistance. Yet all they achieved was to destroy wood and stone. The Jewish spirit was never broken. It seems to be as strong as ever. If we are to judge by what we have seen in Vilna and here, in the Jewish ghetto of Rome, I couldn't agree with you more, replied Zerubny. Look, what we see here are the remnants of the ancient Roman Empire. True, Old Jerusalem is also in ruins, but the Jewish people are very much alive, and they are looking forward to the restoration of their temple and of Jerusalem, whereas ancient Rome, there are left only crumbling dead monuments. Come, my friend, let's go to the Jewish quarter and refresh ourselves by the sing-song of Jewish children learning Torah. I cannot begin to tell you how it affects me. I feel so much more at home there than anywhere in the world. Saying which, Valentine put his arm through his friend's as they strolled off to the old ghetto. Over time, young Count Potocki and his friend Zaramba were beginning to get bored with Rome. They had seen all they wanted to see and had learned all there was worthwhile learning. Now, they had to decide what to do next. Valentine's resolve to become a Jew had not weakened. On the contrary, his determination was stronger than ever. As for his friend Zaramba, on the other hand, he was not quite so certain. Back home he had left a young lady with whom he was all but engaged to marry. She was the daughter of Prince Radziwill. Should he marry her, a brilliant future awaited him. He had never told her that he was seriously considering the idea of embracing the Jewish faith. Before he could confide in her, he had to be sure what her feelings were. Would she be prepared, like him, to give up her family and a life of ease and luxury in order to become his Jewish wife? Or, if she was not prepared to make the sacrifice, would she at least not betray his secret? Zaramba felt, therefore, that he had to return home and clear up the situation before he made a final decision. He explained his position to his good friend, informing him that he would return home for the time being at any rate. Valentine did not attempt to influence his friend one way or another. "My dear friend Zaramba," he said, "I am sorry that we must part, but you must, of course, make up your own mind in such an important decision. Should you wish to meet me again, you will find me in Amsterdam. I know you will not breathe a word about it to my parents or anyone else. I will give you a letter to take to my parents, and you will, on your part, further reassure them that they are not to worry about me." Thereupon Valentine wrote a fairly short letter to his parents in which he assured them that he was well and happy, that the city of Rome had made a lasting impression on him, and that the added maturity he had gained would stand him in good stead. He further told them that he would continue with his plans to visit Paris and Berlin, and he begged them not to worry about him. In a P.S. he added that Zaremba would fill them in on the details of their interesting experiences. Zaremba returned home. After a brief visit with his parents, he went to deliver Valentine's letter. The Count and Countess received him very warmly. They were, of course, disappointed that their son had not returned too, but Zaremba assured them that Valentine was no longer the young lad they had known, and that he had matured a great deal and could well take care of himself. Zaremba then went to pay his respects at the home of Prince Radziwill, where he was received with honor and affection. It was not long before he received the prince's blessing to marry his daughter. In the meantime, soon after his friend left, Valentine left Rome and went to Paris. Upon arrival, he wrote a short letter to his parents, telling them of his safe arrival. This was the last letter he wrote to his parents After spending a few days in the glittering French capital, Valentine decided that there was no point in prolonging his visit there. And that's besides, he was running low on money. He had just enough money to take him to Amsterdam. So he quickly and quietly left Paris and made his way to Amsterdam. There he went straight to the rabbi, and in the privacy of his study, with no other person present, Valentine introduced himself. The rabbi had already received word from his colleague in Vilna about a young Polish nobleman who intended to visit him. "Aha," said the rabbi, "so you are the young man about whom my esteemed colleague wrote to me." The rabbi said this in a serious tone, but not unfriendly manner. Valentine thought that since he had a recommendation from the rabbi of Vilna, things would go smoothly. But he soon discovered that it was not going to be simple at all. He had to go over the same ground that he covered with the rabbi of Vilna. How he had come to the conclusion to become a Jew, and was more than willing to give up his family, his connections, his noble station in life, all in order to dedicate his remaining years of life to the holiness of Torah and mitzvot as a true son of the Jewish people. The rabbi questioned him closely at great length to test his sincerity and determination. The rabbi told him of the hardships that would be before him and the difficulties that he would face and why he should really reconsider his decision. But when he was finally convinced that the young Polish nobleman was unshakable in his resolve, the rabbi finally agreed to prepare him for the conversion by informing him, first of all, of what this would entail in terms of the strict observances of all of the mitzvahs of the Torah that regulate the day-to-day life of a Jew. Valentine assured the rabbi that he would observe every law, regulation, and custom with all his heart and with the greatest joy, for this was his greatest desire in the world. Then Valentine underwent circumcision, and when he fully recovered, he underwent the immersion in the mikveh. Everything was done under the supervision of the rabbi and 2 other qualified aides in strict accord of Jewish law. The dream which Valentine had nurtured for a long time had now become a reality. He was now like a newborn Jew, whose name was Avraham ben Avraham. Avraham, the son of Avraham, named after the father of the Jewish nation and the father of all of the righteous converts. Avraham, the righteous convert of Vilna, was filled with an inner happiness he had not known before. He immersed himself completely in the study of Torah and was most meticulous in the observance of the mitzvahs. Except for a few hours of sleep at night, he spent every minute in Torah study, feeling that he had to make up for all those years of his youth. Otherwise, all thoughts of his past were completely replaced, for he felt like a newborn child who had no past life, but only a future life ahead, a life dedicated to Torah and mitzvos, and he was determined to make the most of it.